Welcome to Bitcoin Magazine Live's 9th show. It's great to have you guys with us. The price of Bitcoin at this moment is $50,610. So we just cracked 50K again, according to the Clark Moody dashboard, which means that you can no longer get 2,000 Satoshis, fractions of a Bitcoin, for your dollar. But wait, depending on the exchange, you may still be able to. I've got another node running here that says the price of Bitcoin on one exchange is $49,000, which means you can still get 2,000 sats for $1 this Christmas. That's great news, bullish news. To start things off, I want to make sure you guys who are here early are ready to try to earn some free Bitcoin. We're giving away a lot of Bitcoin during this show, more than usual because of the holidays. So on screen, you will see a QR code that will lead you to the Earn Carrot app, and you can use that to redeem codes we're going to drop throughout the show within the chat on Twitch and YouTube possibly, but mostly on screen. We'll drop some codes and you guys can compete and try to win some free Bitcoin. So make sure you download that app with the QR code or go to www.earncarrot.com or get the app Earn Carrot in any app store. So now that you all have that amazing app, let's dig into our 9th live episode. I've got an exciting lineup for you all today. To kick things off, we're going to cover our Bitcoin news stories for the day. So the news stories that we'll dig into are Michael Saylor owning $866 million worth of Bitcoin personally. That's not MicroStrategy. That's his personal stashes worth in US dollars. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about households in Siberia that are exploiting cheap energy to mine Bitcoin and to heat their homes, and also to maintain miners up there in the cold. It's a lot easier to do it in a cold climate. So we've got 2 developing stories that we're going to watch throughout the next couple days, couple weeks. One would be U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming is proposing a new bill, like a pro-Bitcoin kind of defensive bill next year. More details on that to come. And I've just wanted to drop, we've got a new statistic regarding Bitcoin ATMs. The number of global Bitcoin ATMs grew by over 155% this year. So I know I'm seeing them pop up all over my neighborhood. Definitely a change from last year. Depends on what part of the country you live in, how populated it is, but I'm seeing ATMs for Bitcoin pop up in all sorts of unexpected places. Let me know in the chat, you guys ever used a Bitcoin ATM before? I will say, while we're talking about ATMs, if you are new to Bitcoin and just in general, I actually do not recommend that you go to an ATM. That is like the most know your customer you can get. You're going to be on camera getting Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin does what I think it's going to do, if we end up at a value of $1 to $5 million per Bitcoin, you're not going to want to be caught on a gas station camera, buying 7 Bitcoins and walking home. I mean, it's just, there's too many risks involved. I think there's too much liability to go somewhere in person to exchange for Bitcoin with a machine that you don't know. There's too much trust involved in that process. And it is in fact easier and safer to just get Bitcoin through the usual exchanges. I recommend Strike. I recommend Swan Bitcoin. I recommend BitcoinMagazine.com. I believe you can still purchase Bitcoin pretty much KYC free with a credit card if you need to. Just know your options and keep a variety of places open to buy Bitcoin. After that PSA, I'm sure you hardcores already knew all that. So after that PSA and after these news stories, we've got an interview with Yusuf, who is the founding director of the Built with Bitcoin Foundation. And then we've got an exclusive analysis on Bitcoin adjacent equities, a fan favorite segment with Q. And after that, we're going to have street interviews with Isabella. I'm going to do a daily dunk today. We're going to dig in. It's day 2 of Jack really going hard in the paint against Web3, and I'm for it. And we're going to discuss that today. And then we're going to lastly premiere the holiday hashing Bitcoin mining series. So we've got a stacked episode lined up for you guys today. So without further ado, our biggest news story of the day: MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor reportedly owns at least 17,732 Bitcoin. It's amazing. I'm jealous. So, according to a Markets Insider report, Saylor said in a November interview that um, besides his publicly listed company's goal of accumulating Bitcoin, he also has aims in his personal life. And it's nice to see his corporate actions backed up by private talk and action on his part. So he's not only hodling through MicroStrategy, he's hodling on his own. And the CEO reportedly owns at least 17,732 Bitcoin, which puts him at a US dollar value at this moment of over $877 million. Now, Saylor has never sold any of his Bitcoin, and in general, he doesn't believe you should sell your Bitcoin. That's pretty impressive, guys. If you've been around a little while, it's hard to find people who have never sold any Bitcoin. That's a kind of a forward-thinking person that learns about the investment before they dive right in. Most of us jumped in, started trading all kinds of bullshit, and then learned about Bitcoin more and more, and gave up the altcoins, gave up the other cryptocurrencies, and it's been X years since we sold Bitcoin. That's usually how the horseshoe looks. That's the arc of coming back to Bitcoin, coming for the number go up and staying for the sovereign property. So this hodl mentality that Saylor has shines through in his company MicroStrategy as well. So I mean, he's reported saying that he envisions a Bitcoin price of $6 million per coin in the future. I don't know exact timestamp on that prediction, but we've seen very similar estimates across the board of a $5 to $10 million Bitcoin price by 2030 as corporations, as nation states, and as individuals all pile in, and we begin to see the game theoretic Bitcoin strategies play out over across the world. That's the one thing about Bitcoin adoption. It generally only grows. So, yeah, that would be a 12,000% increase over the current Bitcoin price. But I will add that as optimistic and as far-flung as that sounds, Bitcoin is already on record as being the most appreciating asset in recorded human history in terms of the price gains. I mean, we're talking billions of percent points since day one. So just that's something to keep an eye on, guys. We're going big places. Bitcoin is at a discount. Anything under several $1,000,000 per coin is at a huge discount. And at the end of the day, you're not going to care whether you bought it at 49 or 54. But nonetheless, I recommend you try to buy those dips and stack as many sats as possible while you can. So continuing on with the story, Saylor has in the past been outspoken about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. He's notorious for drawing a line between the two, which is important. You'll hear on this show time and time again, Bitcoin and crypto, different asset classes, do different things, not in competition with each other. These cryptos can't compete. They do not share the same set of traits. You cannot bootstrap a new Bitcoin into existence for a variety of reasons that we will go on about in this show. So in a November Twitter Spaces hosted by Bitcoin Magazine, of course, Saylor bashed the standard recommended diversity, the standard recommendation to diversify your investments, right? That's like a very old boomer model. Diversify your investments to protect your wealth. And I think that once we had Bitcoin, that model is kind of out the window. I think that model was born out of a need for people to find a store of value for their wealth. And so they look to art, they look to real estate, they look to gold. Bitcoin does what all of those can do, but better for cheaper. With the maintenance cost of zero in a permissionless manner, you're storing perfect energy over time with no impairment costs. So rather than buy any of those things or those traditional stores of value, you just have to buy Bitcoin. It's really that simple, guys. You don't need to diversify. You don't need to get activity bias. You don't need to play with your Bitcoin. You just buy it and hold. It's boring. It's simple. It's gonna store your wealth at the very least, appreciate to levels, you've never seen your savings appreciate like you have in Bitcoin once you've been in here a couple of years. So consolidation into Bitcoin, like it's sure to be an appreciating store of wealth, with returns that I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you any returns, but I would say that if the past experience holds true, Bitcoin is poised to make us all very, very happy and very, very wealthy and, and safe individuals. So I'm excited about that. In other news, we've got, let me see right here. Actually, we're going to go back a little bit. So in August of 2020, Saylor's software business, MicroStrategy, aside from their Bitcoin strategy, is actually a software as a service company. They purchased $250 million worth of Bitcoin, turning the peer-to-peer currency into its primary treasury reserve asset. So the company has made several new buys since, leveraging cash flows, debt, and equity, while benefiting from Bitcoin dips as it steps up and acquires Bitcoin at a discount. Saylor's out here buying all the dips. He's buying all the Bitcoin, guys. MicroStrategy's latest purchase was made earlier this month, when it bought $82 million worth of Bitcoin. The company holds approximately 122,478 Bitcoin, more than any publicly traded company in the world. And next, I'm going to check in with you guys in the comments here in a bit, but here's a short animated clip that underlines why Michael Saylor is so bullish on Bitcoin. And this is from an interview we carried out earlier in the year.
Why Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is the most universally desirable property in space and time. It's the property with the lowest maintenance cost. You could put $1 billion of Bitcoin in cold storage and you don't have to pay 2% a year to maintain it, or 5% a year, or 10% a year. The maintenance cost on a boat is 10% a year. The maintenance cost on a building is 3% a year. Whatever it is, there's a cost. You own a company? Well, there's a cost to own a company. If the company didn't have any employees, right, and didn't have any cost, then maybe there wouldn't be as much maintenance. But what do you call a company that has no employees and no maintenance costs? Well, Bitcoin?
Yep.